Hey, everybody, welcome to the Internet Sports Broadcast Network. There's four of us friends that we just like to sit around the table and talk sports. And unfortunately, we have one that doesn't have his voice and another one that's out of pocket tonight. So it's Smooth Dave and Hurdie Burke bringing you the Internet Sports Broadcast Network in the world of ghost sports. We have no sports.
No, we don't.
So everything we're talking about is future stuff coming up, right, Smooth?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
I mean, we can kind of throw around some cool things. And you said you got kind of a list together, and maybe a few of those are on my list, and we can kind of put our heads together, put some discussion about it. So what do you got shaking, man?
Well, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, back when there was sports. We were talking about the XFL and how well they were doing.
Right.
And sure enough, that quarterback from Houston was signed by the Carolina Panthers recently.
Yeah.
So that was nice to see. P.J. Walker.
Yeah.
Signed by the Panthers. That was good to see.
Yeah, and guess who got let go?
Yeah.
Cam Newton's bye-bye.
Yeah. Yeah,
after 9 seasons, and I can't imagine that he's not a good enough quarterback to be picked up somewhere. Come on,
somebody will take a chance on him.
Well, if his heart would get into it, and he's been injured enough where it might be, but I still think I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah,
that's cool. That's cool. It's cool. It's cool. They got that guy from the Houston team. He's good.
Yeah.
Discovered.
Well, you know who else is looking for a job?
Who's
Jameis
that?
Winston.
I know.
Winston.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
And he's not a bad quarterback either.
Some guy came in and took his job. I don't know who that guy might be. You know who it is?
Nah, I know. I think that would be Brady, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Yeah. You don't think they're going to keep a high-paid quarterback as backup, do you?
No, not at all.
Yeah, they're basically doing Winston a favor, if you want to know the truth.
Well, with Jameis, he was just too inconsistent.
Yeah.
I mean, too many turnovers. At that position, that's the foremost position on the team. As a leader, you're commanding the offense.
Right.
And when you were turning the ball over at the rate that he was, and it was hurting them because they were in close games, and a lot of his interceptions cost them the game. So they couldn't afford to keep going down that road. And so that's why they're taking their chance on a 42-year-old Tom Brady.
I don't know if taking a chance, Smooth. Tom Brady or Winston, who would you put in your backfield? Okay, tough. Yeah, they are, but I'm just making a joke about that. But oh my goodness, Winston, they're doing him a favor because at least he can go somewhere else and play, right? And maybe be a strong backup, and maybe even a starter on some other team. So who knows, right? Who knows?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Then did you see the Rams let Todd Gurley go?
Yeah, what's that all about? Well, I mean, the guy basically dominated. Well, let's see. He did really well the year before last, right? Didn't he get a little banged up? And
he was banged up. They were saying he was okay,
but he's still a strong running back.
Right. They were basically doing load management with him in their run up to the Super Bowl. But now, with him being in Atlanta, we will see exactly how healthy he really is now.
Yeah,
because
Atlanta's that's going to be.
Atlanta's not going to hold back on him. They're going to let him run. They're going to let him go. So we'll see how healthy he really is now.
Well, I remember the game he destroyed Dallas the year before in a playoff game where, remember, Dallas couldn't even get past their own 20-yard line the whole game, right? And he just ran over them. If you remember that correctly. That game was that's when everybody said, wow, this guy's really good. Yeah, so there's a lot of big changes going on. I'm trying to see what is going on. trying to escape full screen here so I can get in.
Well, the Saints signed another weapon at wide receiver. They signed Emmanuel Sanders. And, you give Drew Brees another weapon on offense. That offense is
Where was
dangerous as it
Sanders
is.
from? Did he?
Used to be with Denver. He played with Denver.
That's right. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
he played with the Broncos at one time. Not real sure where he played last year, but New Orleans has signed him. And again, another weapon. They already got Michael Thomas there.
Right.
And now with Emmanuel Sanders, I mean, they got some definite weapons there on offense.
Absolutely.
So whenever the season might start, it'll be fun to see how that all works out.
Yes, it will. If the season ever starts, man, good grief. They've got so many sports smooth that they're going to have to figure out how to squeeze them in and get them done. I was hearing today, the NBA is thinking about a May start, right? And a June playoff, April, May, June, May, April, May, June, May maybe start and June playoff. Did I hear that correctly? I think today. Who knows?
Right,
Who knows?
right.
Baseball season's all out of whack.
You know what? So I was thinking about that today. This would have been opening day weekend.
Right.
This week for
I'm
baseball.
missing it.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
I'm already bummed.
This also would have been Sweet 16 weekend in NCAA basketball.
Right. And that's right. And also you've got college baseball winding down into their playoff situation, which is always fun to watch, right?
Correct.
So we're missing that. We're missing everything good. The golf building up to the Masters, we're missing.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
So I wonder what people are doing I've been watching have you been watching reruns on like YouTube TV and some of the streaming stations? They've been playing some classics back, and some NASCAR did a cool thing. Did you see what NASCAR did, or do you care?
No, I didn't. I didn't see
They ran an iRace. They put all the drivers in these in a simulator.
Oh, nice.
And did a simulated race on TV with pit stops and everything. And Hamlin won it, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. finished second.
Wow.
But they actually are driving these cars in their garage or in their house, and they're putting them on the track, and they're actually racing. It's pretty cool. So, from giving you something, they had real advertisement, breaks, they had wrecks.
Nice.
But unlike where they got their cars destroyed, they can reset and come back in the race. You with me? Too bad the real world didn't like that.
Right.
Exactly. I thought that was kind of cool. But I'm really missing it bad,
Yeah.
So
I actually caught myself today watching an 88 playoff game between Detroit and the Lakers.
Oh, cool.
Yes. Yeah,
and you know what? Some of these games you can't remember who won.
Right.
And you're going back, and it's like you're watching it brand new again, unless you went back and read before, right? Like I watched the Chicago Bears Super Bowl game on YouTube playing the Patriots.
Well, you knew the outcome of that one.
Right? I knew it, but you know what? It was fun to watch after interviewing Silky D. It was fun to see him in the game.
Yes.
You kind of putting the guy with it and everything. That was kind of cool. But I've been going back and watching some of these classics, and there's plenty available highlights to go back and watch in full games. So I guess that's what we're all doing.
Yeah. I don't. Again, I just happened to turn it on, and that's what was on, and it was kind of fun to watch Magic, and Kareem and those guys. I think it was game 6, and Detroit was up 3-2.
Yeah, that's
so it was kind of fun.
Thomas days.
Yes,
and all that
it was fun watching that. Yeah, it was definitely fun watching that. So,
Need to
but
find the Celtics and the Lakers games, right?
actually, that was on a few days ago, and I
Yep,
tuned
yep,
in for that.
yeah. I'd even like them to go back, and if I could find, like, do you remember when the New York Knicks were so good? They had Earl Pearl Monroe. I don't know if you know
Yeah.
who Earl Pearl, but the guy was
Yep.
like a Pete Maravich passer.
Oh
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Walt Frazier,
Walt Frazier.
right? And then they always had brutal games with the Boston Celtics because
Yes.
Russell was playing in the middle,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like
Willis
it
Reed.
just
Yeah.
Willis
Willis Reed.
Reed, and man,
Yes.
it was fun to watch those guys
Yes.
play. Big rivalries, good teams.
Yes.
I need to go back and catch a few of those because they were
Yeah.
excellent. They were excellent NBA
You
games.
here's the thing: watching those games on TV now, the picture qualities weren't all that great for
No,
those games back then,
yeah,
compared to today.
yeah.
But no
Analog versus
HD.
HD. Okay, there
Yes.
you go. No kidding.
Exactly. So, hey, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So let's turn to baseball for a second,
Okay, let's
and,
do.
and let me throw this question at you.
All right.
So, with the Astros cheating scandal,
Mm-hmm.
does that pave the way for one, Pete Rose to be reinstated, and does it also pave the way for Barry Bonds and or Roger Clemens to make the Hall of Fame?
Boy, you're opening up a can of worms there, buddy. I've always said, and I may be taken wrong on this, but I've often said Barry Bonds, Pete Rose, and always have deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. Always. That maybe they get, they've done their just with the public ridicule. You know what I'm saying? But they did accomplish some pretty cool things, especially Pete Rose. I don't know. I mean, are you saying two rights should make a wrong? Two wrongs should make a right? Said
It,
that
it,
wrong.
it, it was a question just I
Yeah,
had
just
been
to
thinking
throw out
about
there. Yeah, I know
that I
it's
had been
tough,
thinking
man. It's
about
tough.
because I'm
It's
sure I'm not the
tough.
only one that's thinking that. I mean, Pete Rose, Charlie Hustle, I grew up watching
I
him.
grew up watching Cincinnati
Um,
Reds, him with Joe Morgan and Johnny Bench on that team, and it was fun to watch. Man,
right.
fun to watch them play. The Baltimore Orioles had a big rivalry, with Boog Powell at first base, and all those old players. I don't, I love those guys. Who didn't like Pete Rose?
Right.
Running
Right.
over a
Yeah.
catcher or hustling the second base or trying to take third or always fired up, fist pumping, running the bases
Right.
hard. Just unbelievable baseball player.
Yes,
Unbelievable
sir.
energy. Who knows?
Yeah.
I think he deserves it. I do.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the numbers speak for themselves.
Yeah.
But the question is,
Did the numbers come as a result of doing stuff, right?
yeah. Well,
I
I
mean,
don't know. I don't know if they did or not. I mean,
we
the
don't know.
gambling thing. The
I mean,
gambling thing
they
happened.
didn't have steroids last year, and they hit record home runs, and the power was unbelievable, right? So, I
Right.
mean,
Right.
it, it,
Well, and
it,
again,
it's a different game today. You've got bigger players, more athletic players, right? From the standpoint of they're year-round players, but still, my feeling is yes, they should be in, and that has nothing to do with Houston.
right. Okay. All right. Good. Well,
And Clemens too. Clemens was a great pitcher.
yes.
He was good all the way. He was good at Texas. He was good wherever he pitched in the majors. He was consistent, right?
Yes.
Uh,
Absolutely.
and yeah, he's the kind of guy that I think should eventually be into. But
Yeah.
it is. Sports doesn't like to open cans of worms, buddy.
Well, I mean, again, Pete Rose's issues came long after he played.
I
It was
agree.
when he was a manager.
I agree.
So, as a player, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Bonds, incredible numbers.
Well, even our guest the other night, Scott,
Yeah.
Harrison told us that he'd
Yeah.
never seen a player of the caliber of Barry Bonds, that he was
Right.
awed by him.
Right.
So it
And
had a lot of influence on the players that were in the league, right?
right. Oh,
And
absolutely.
as a leader, so isn't that what Hall of Fame's all about?
Yeah.
Is
And
other
again,
players respecting your talent?
as was mentioned last week, he's never tested positive for anything. So
Yeah,
right now
exactly.
it's speculation. It's all speculation.
I
So,
mean, but the Houston Astros, I think, is a totally different. And I know it sounds weird, but I'm looking at Houston as a whole misleading, cheating debacle that was accepted by everybody. Do you understand? That's different.
right.
That's management. That's players. That's whether they're involved or not. They were on the team. They knew it. I don't care what they say. Anybody who's played for a team sport knows what goes on between team players. Am I right, Dave? Everybody, you
Oh,
can't hide that stuff.
absolutely. Absolutely.
You just don't snitch, right, or whatever they
Right.
call it. So,
Well, again,
but it was a whole team effort, and that's what bothers me about that, and that's what I think bothers people.
right, right. But and I guess it's almost you got to look at it as levels of cheating because I've said this before. If a man gets on first and he's still second base, he's looking directly at the catcher. He's looking at the signs,
right?
And there is some way he's communicating that to the batter to know what's coming. Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's done throughout baseball. That's known.
That's
why you
called
go change the signs.
That's called tipping. You're allowed to look for pitchers
Yeah,
making changes in the way they throw a pitch or the
right,
way they stand. So you look for tips or you look for
right,
giveaways.
right,
Maybe you get to see maybe the catcher slips up behind the plate and gives away that it's going to be an inside pitch, even though you can't read the signs, that he gives away where the pitch is coming so the batter
right,
has an idea, and gives that away too soon. Those are legit studies of the game when you're
right.
playing the game,
And
right?
and everybody knows that, and everybody does that.
Right. No
Now
difference from a defensive back trying to figure out if a slot guy is going to go in or out, right?
right, right, right.
So,
Now, but the Astros took it to another level with the
They
camera
they
and the
did.
signals and all of that.
They did.
That's a whole nother level, and they were exposed for that. So,
Yeah.
but
And and the jury might be out yet, but in my opinion, it with that level of what they did, they benefited in the World Series from that. That's the problem for me. Don't think they're going to take it away from them.
no, if they haven't done it by now, it's not going to happen.
They're not going to do it, but they have certainly made certain players go bye-bye.
Yeah.
That had optional management careers in front of them. One with Boston, one with the Mets, that literally put them in a position to have the life that they wanted after playing ball all their life. So I feel sad for them too.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah, right.
Because I know they love the game, but at the same time, they got caught.
They did, and it seems like they are suffering the consequences of the team's actions. Because when you think about it, there are former players that have been punished because they've lost their jobs.
Right.
The Houston Astros as a team receives substantial fines, which they can afford to pay.
Right.
The manager and GM lost their jobs, but the rest of the current players not affected by this whatsoever.
No, they just got to put up with the heckling all season when we get started, and they will.
Yeah.
They're going to get on the road. They're going to get pounded.
Oh, absolutely.
I promise you. It will be a long season for them, and yet they still may win that division. I'm serious.
It'll be interesting to see once baseball comes back.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this.
That was a good question, Smooth Dave, but that was a tough one to answer. I almost didn't know how to answer those, but when I think about it from my gut and I don't spend too much time on it from my head and don't get into all the junk around it, I go, yeah, those guys deserve to be there. That's kind of my gut feeling, right?
Okay.
So thanks for asking.
Oh, no problem. I was again just throwing it out there as a topic
Yeah,
for conversation.
I
So
love it.
now let me ask you this: which sport do you think will come back first once all this stuff is done?
Oh God. I think golf would be the easiest thing because what they're doing on PGA Tour is they're just repeating last year's tournament on a normal schedule, right? Round one, round two, round three at the scheduled time on TV with the advertisers. I think golf could get started pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, I think so. Because any other sport, baseball, you're gonna want to play a couple exhibition games just to get back and get
Yeah,
your
you don't
mechanics
want
in
you don't
order and
want injuries.
everything.
Golf, you can injure, but those guys will be playing. You'll be practicing. Whether or not they'll be out hitting golf balls. There's no rules or regulations what they can and can't do, right?
Right,
So
right.
I would think golf first. I would think that baseball will probably have about maybe 15 games or 10 games of preseason to before they start. Maybe they start in May too, and as I mentioned on the show last week, maybe they play more interdivisional games until they make sure they really have a champion for each division and a wild card team instead of playing all over the. Maybe they have to change the whole schedule up. That's going to be a tough one. Baseball's tough because think about the travel schedules. Or do they just start where that date would be?
That's the whole thing. You get a whole lot of logistics that you have to put in
But
and keep in mind.
what if they just say, "Hey, we're going to play 10 preseason games, and then as soon as we play those 10 preseason games, we're going to go into the field where the date is already set on the calendar." Wouldn't that be the easiest thing to do?
Yes, because then you can't really come up with a whole new schedule. It would
Yeah, I
just
mean,
be
what are you going to do? You've got to
right,
change travels, PR,
right.
all the arrangements that were made, making sure maybe that virus is not still rampant in one part of the country. You know what I'm saying? There's all sorts of
Yeah,
logistics. So I would say baseball would not be second. I would say basketball would be, but those guys run up and down that court in the NBA, they're going to have practice time, or there'll be
yes,
lots of injuries.
right.
They have to get back in game shape.
Yep.
So I would expect they should play like I think. Let's say they came back. What is it? April, May. Let's say they started back around May 15th. Maybe. Let's just say worst case scenario, third week of May. Play 2 weeks and then pick up the schedule right where it is for the playoffs. Right. Uh, Keep the rankings where they're at right now. Let them finish up whatever games they have on the schedule, or just start the playoffs based on where everybody's at right then. But let them play 10 or 15 interconference games and get their legs back to them, and then just start the playoffs in June,
Yeah, I
middle of
think
June.
mid May would be if they had finished the season would be during the playoffs.
Right. So I'm
So
saying give them 10 games to get their legs back, and then just
yeah,
start the playoffs in June.
yeah. And
If
I got
if
to think.
if 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 that works out, so that would be
Well,
to me the second easiest to get started because they've already been playing.
yeah, and I got to think that they're already talking about these scenarios with all this downtime
Oh,
that that
absolutely.
that they have probably a plan A, B, and C
They're
that they're
listening to
trying
us,
to
Dave, and they're
put.
going to follow what we think. That's what they're doing.
Okay, if that's the case, then
I'm
uh,
kidding.
I want in on that.
Me too. Send me a check.
Yeah, exactly.
But
So
baseball would be easy. Just play 10 or 15 more preseason games. Make sure these pitchers' arms are working right because they've been all sent home right with their families. And maybe we should ask Scott that, or maybe we can call Scott and ask him to tell us his thoughts so we can just talk about it on the next show. But do they need 10 games or 15 games and then just say wherever the schedule is on this date, that's where everybody's going? They're just going to pick up right where the schedule would be and just go.
yes, yeah. With baseball, it'd be easy to do that, um, and then on the back end, they can work out and figure out if they're going to make up games or cut the season down to 162 games versus 182.
You know what? Depends on the revenue, doesn't it, Dave?
Yes. Oh,
If
of
the owner
course.
if the owners can't make enough money, then they'll extend it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They'll but you can't go much past October, especially if you're a New York team or because it gets cold, right? So it makes a
Right.
difference. So they've got some decisions, but the owners are going to say, look, we want to make sure we make revenue. But I can't imagine that people aren't going to be fired up to go to any sports stuff they can get their hands on,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
Exactly.
and you know, the Rangers got a new ballpark, right? That they're
Yes.
just dying to get people to. You know, they're
Oh,
going to sell out.
absolutely.
You know, they're going to sell out every single
Absolutely.
home game, right?
Yes. Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
so it's all about the money, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes, it is. Absolutely. But man, I tell you, I didn't think I would miss sports as much as I do.
Yeah, I think it's so much a part of our lives for us guys that have always paid attention to it and played in it and everything that, you know, you just don't realize how much it becomes a part of your life. Do you realize a lot of your schedules on your weekends and even some weeknights, right, revolved around, okay, well, I'm eating dinner. I'm going to watch the Rangers on Fox Southwest, right? Or I'm going to watch an NBA game, or I'm going to flip over and I can't wait till the Masters comes on, and I'm watching golf and I can't wait. I mean, we watch more sports than we think we probably do.
That is absolutely true. That is absolutely true because normally during the week you're busy with your everyday activities, and
Right,
you might catch an NBA game or two here, but come the
right.
weekend, you're looking for that football game, that golf tournament, baseball game, something.
Well, you were looking forward to it, you know, especially
Right.
if it's a rivalry. Think about all the times when you couldn't wait to see the first tee off on a Masters,
Hmm.
right? And watch the first round and see how Tiger does, right? Or see how
Right.
Jordan does, or see who does well, right? And have all the hype going around it. And then think about the starting of the baseball season, right? Who doesn't love opening baseball day, right?
Oh
So
yeah, opening day is tradition.
right. Even if you watch on TV, but people love to go to those games. So I'm saying there were things to look forward to that now you're just kind of sitting here at home twiddling your thumbs going, man, I can only work on the computer so much. I can only play so many games. I can only watch so many movies. I need sports. You know, it'd be really interesting, Smooth, if they
Right.
go back and show us TV ratings for some of the old stuff they've been putting up.
Yes.
To kind of give us how the ratings are doing on some of the older games that they've been posting back up and some of the stuff that people's watching. I'd love to see how ratings go on some of these different things that they're posting, different
Right.
classic games. That'd be really cool.
Yes. Yeah, it would be. It would be. And I, I I got a chance to sit down and watch some of the ESPN specials that they have. Um,
The
that's
30
30 for
30 and
30 for
stuff
30.
like that. I
Yeah.
love that. Love
Yes.
that
Yeah.
show.
Yeah. I watched a couple of those really intriguing stories. So
Yep.
that's been pretty good. But
Yeah, and those are kind of timeless, you know. They're not like the event, but they kind of talk about the history of a player, you know, what he's been through, what his personal life is like, and it's really cool. So that's a great
right.
show. That
Yes,
we
sir.
can watch, right?
Yes.
But man, I don't
Yes,
know.
sir. Yes, sir.
Just needs to
So
virus needs to hurt and go away.
yes, exactly. Exactly. Yes. We need our sports back. We need
Yeah.
our lives back.
So what do you think? You asked me. So what do you think? Which sport you do you feel like can, because besides water skiing, which sport do you think can pick up pretty quickly where it left off? You asked my opinion. What is yours?
Um, golf to me is the easiest because
Yep.
that's about, it's just a matter of where it falls on the date. If there was a tournament where it is, and getting the guys, you know, golf could be up and running within a week,
Yeah, I agree. Really
depending.
quickly. Really
Yes.
quickly.
Yeah. And so I think golf is first. The next sport to come back probably would be maybe NBA. Get some practice time in. I don't think they'll play any exhibition games or anything, they'll let the guys just go practice and then, start on whatever schedule
Yeah,
that they
that could
they
be
deem
true.
fit.
I don't know
Yeah,
how they do that.
yeah, yeah. And in baseball, it's a matter of
It's a scheduling
where's
debacle.
where's all the players at right now because of are they confined to where spring training was because they couldn't travel home
I
or
heard they let them
or
go.
yeah, well, are they scattered all over
Could be.
the United States? So now you got to bring them back together again. They got to practice,
Yep.
get their camaraderie together before going out on the field again. So I think basketball would probably be my second, and then baseball would be third.
Yeah.
Would be third. So
I hear you.
yes,
I
sir.
we need it. We need them back, and
Yes,
it doesn't matter about all these players and trades and how great they are and who they're moving to if we can't see them play.
right.
And worst case scenario is that this things continues to not be good and not get solved. Then I think we're talking like really we may miss whole seasons of teams.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. That could happen.
So there you go.
Yeah. That
What
could
else,
happen,
buddy?
sir. So, I had a flashback moment here.
Only you.
From
Only you, man.
This was 22 years ago. 1998.
Okay, I was born. Thank you.
I remember this like it was yesterday.
Really?
And I was sitting watching the Big Ten conference tournament. It was taking place in Chicago. And it was a Michigan versus Purdue.
Ooh.
And I'm watching the game that afternoon. I'm cheering for Michigan. And Michigan ends up winning the Big Ten tournament. But while I'm watching the game, I get a phone call from my security partner at the time. And we were doing some private security for some Bears players. And he called me and said, hey, he said, why don't you head to my house? I said, what's going on? He said, we got to go look for Zoe. I'm sure you're familiar with Alonzo Spellman.
Mm-hmm.
So, we had done some work for him. So I get dressed, I'm driving to my buddy's house, and I call him, and I say, hey, any word, where it might be, what's going on? He says, I'm talking to him on the other line. He's in Southfield. And I'm like, Southfield, Michigan? He's like, is that where that is? I thought that was just in, south of Chicago.
Right.
I'm like, no, that's about a 4-hour drive from where we are to get there. So by the time I get to his house, it turns out that Alonzo Spellman has a mandatory NFL drug test Monday morning. So this is Sunday, March the 8th, 1998.
Wow.
And he's got this test Monday morning. And a no-show is just like a fail when it comes to a drug test in the NFL. So if you don't show up, you basically fail the test.
You're gone.
So my partner had got a call from Zoe's wife because she hadn't seen him in 2 days.
Oh.
And she's like, hey, I need y'all help to find him. So I get to my buddy's house, and he said he's in Michigan, and he was apparently in some type of industrial commercial area, and it was, that's wintertime in Chicago still. It's still cold outside. So here's this 6'4" black man, huge, built, and he's out here at this commercial establishment, and they had called the police because they didn't know who he was. So the police came there, and my partner, Tony, talked to them on the phone, told them, hey, we're his bodyguards. We're driving. We're coming there right now. What we need you to do, take him back to the station until we get there to pick him up. So the police agreed. Hey, no problem. We'll do that. No big deal. So I'm at my buddy's house. I'm at Tony's house. Zoe's wife and his publicist are now driving from the north suburbs to meet us. So we all meet up, and I get behind the wheel of Zoe's Range Rover, and I start driving the four of us to Michigan. So we're driving. We stop about halfway, let the girls use the bathroom, grab a bite to eat. So we're heading to Michigan. And I just had this funny feeling. So I told my buddy, I said, hey, man, you need to call, make sure he's still at the police station. He calls the police station. They said, yeah, we never brought him back to the police station. We're like, why not? They said his brother showed up at the scene, and so he left with him. We're like, what? So then, we started talking about, well, how did his brother get in this equation? But okay, no problem. So we're talking to his wife. She says he's got relatives in Detroit. So we're trying to call them. And we get my buddy Tony got a hold of Zoe. Zoe said, I'm going to leave my cousin's house and I'm heading to Ohio. And I'm like, I'm not going to be chasing this dude all over the Midwest tonight.
Yeah.
So he's on the phone talking with him, whatever. And we probably were like 40 minutes away. So we go to pull up to this cousin's house in Detroit, Michigan. And Zoe's about to back out the driveway. So we pull up, he sees us, he gets out the car and goes back in the house. So by this time, Zoe's brother gets out the car. Him and Zoe's publicist get into an argument. So they're arguing. We get out the car. Here we are in the middle of Detroit. And I'm looking around and I'm going, okay, what's going to happen here?
This isn't good.
And they're going back and forth. And so eventually a car pulled up with a load of guys in it. And I'm like, okay.
Now we're really
and they just asked, is everything okay? And somebody told them it was, and they kept going. So we go to the front door of the house, and Zoe's inside. And he's acting a little strange. He's acting crazy, to be honest with you. And he's outside barefoot. This is March.
Cold. This is Detroit.
It's probably 30 degrees, if that. It's probably colder than that. And so Zoe and his wife start talking, and I'm like, that's good. And so they start walking down the street talking to each other. So now Zoe's cousins, we're talking to them. We're standing on their front porch, and we're telling them, hey, look, we're not here to do anybody any harm. And we explained to them our reason for being here is to get Zoe back to Chicago for his mandatory drug test tomorrow. Because if he's not there, it's a fail. And therefore, the Bears can turn around and ask for some bonus money back from him. As soon as we mentioned that, his cousins were like, oh, come on in the house. So we come in the house and we sit down, and I look up and I'm like, hey, wait a minute. Didn't I just see you on TV? It turns out his cousin is Tractor Trailer that played for the University of Michigan and went on to play NBA ball. This was his home. And Tractor Trailers, I think it was his grandmother. She raised him because I had just saw her on TV as I was watching the tournament. And she's like, we just got back from Chicago. And then I started thinking to myself, okay, here I'm in this not quite so lovely home, but there's this brand new Suburban out in the driveway. And I'm going, this don't add up, but okay, that ain't got nothing to do with me. So we sit in the living room and we're talking with the family. We let them know, hey, we got to get Zoe back because he's going to have to pay money back and he may not even have it. Oh, yeah, y'all got to get him back. So his wife talks to him. He agrees to go back. So now he's driven to Michigan in his white Mercedes sedan, and we're in the Range Rover. So he says, okay, I'll go back, but only if my wife drives me back. So his wife and him get in the Mercedes. I get back behind the wheel of the Range Rover. Now it's me, my partner Tony, Zoe's brother John, and Zoe's publicist. Now, the ones that were arguing with each other, when we first got there, now they have to sit next to each other in the back seat all the way back to Chicago.
And y'all are caravanning back to Chicago.
And then we hit a snowstorm.
Oh.
So we get back at like 6 a.m. and we go to the home of his publicist, northwest suburbs of Chicago. So we get there, and then in the course of all this, we find out Zoe hasn't slept in a couple of days. So we get to the publicist's house, and we're just sitting around, just talking. So they're trying to find the phone number for the guy that's supposed to do the drug test because he comes to the house.
Okay.
So they try to get a hold of him, can't reach him. Finally get a hold of him, and he's like, look, I'm stuck because of the snow. I can't get out my driveway. So we're like, okay, well, what we're going to do is we'll go back to Zoe's house, and you just come there. Zoe can go home, go to sleep. When you get there, we'll wake him up. You can do your test, whatever, we'll be done. But in the meantime, again, Zoe's still acting a little crazy. So he's sitting in front of the fireplace at his publicist's house, and he's dozing off. You can tell he's tired. And then after a few seconds, he wakes up and he looks around. Y'all thought y'all were going to get me. You thought you got me at a weak moment. I'm like, man, what are you talking about? He's like, I hear those snipers on the roof. I'm like, what? I mean, dude, it was one of the craziest things ever. So then it starts to escalate where he goes to the phone. And back then, when they had home phones, he picks up the phone, and he says, "I'm gonna order some limos." Oh, what you want a limo for? And we got cars right outside the driveway. So he picks up the phone and he orders 10 limos. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right, what's going on here? So after that, his wife's saying the same thing. Hey, what are you gonna do with 10 limos? That's dumb. You need to call and cancel that. So he picks up the phone again, and I don't know if he ever dialed it. I don't know what he did, but he made it appear like he was talking to another woman. And his wife was livid.
Oh.
What are you doing? What are you doing? So she says, okay, I'm going to go in the other room and pick up the phone and listen on your conversation. And he's like, don't pick up that phone. Don't pick up that phone. She goes to pick it up, and then he loses it. So he basically snatches the phone out the wall. And at that point, his publicist says, I've had enough. That's it. I'm calling the police. So Zoe goes into her office in her home. My partner Tony goes in there. Zoe's wife and publicist, they walk out through the garage into the garage. And she asks for my cell phone. She dials 911 for my cell phone. So I'm standing there listening to her. Bring the police. Bring the SWAT team. And it's like, are you kidding me? Am I hearing this? So she calls the police. We're standing outside. And I'm like, oh, man, what is about to go down? So I go back in the house, and I'm in there for a few minutes, and they're sitting in there in the office just talking. So I come back out. I said, let me go outside, because what I would hate to do is for the police to show up here and this escalate into something that it shouldn't be.
Right.
So as I go out through the kitchen, through the garage, I get out just to turn to the left, because she lived in a cul-de-sac, to turn to the left. Just as I do that, here's an officer, and he goes to put his hand on his pistol. And I said, I put my hands out. I said, look, I'm unarmed. And I told him who I was. I said, look, I'm one of Zoe's bodyguards. He's in the house. And he's like, man, we got the call, and man, he's one of my favorite players. And I said, well, I said, that's why I came out here, because I don't want anybody to go in here and make this thing something that it's not. I said, he's in the house sitting down, and he's like, well, can we go in? I said, yeah. So we walk in through the kitchen. We walk back to the office. And because I walk in with the officer, he thinks I called the police. So now he's mad at me, but he don't know I'm trying to make sure this situation don't escalate to something crazy. And this officer is real short guy. So we walk in, and he's like, "Officer, what can I do for you?" He said, "Mr. Spellman, you're one of my favorite players, and man, I just admire you." And he's like, "What you doing?" He says, "Well, I'm here at my publicist's house just making some phone calls." He's like, "Oh, okay." And he said, "So I really don't need you, so you're dismissed. Be gone." So, I'm kind of laughing. And then he looks at me and he said, "And you be gone with him." I'm like, "Man, dude, I ain't do that, but okay, fine." So I leave with the officer. We go outside, and he tells the dispatch, "I'm gonna call you on the phone. I'm not calling over the radio." He calls him over the phone and says, "This guy is huge." And so next thing you know, within minutes, here comes a SWAT team. Everybody in this little town is on their way to this house.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I'm like, I don't believe this. This is not that serious. So I'm sitting outside down the street in the Range Rover with Zoe's wife and his publicist. By this time, Zoe's brother has gone home. And so here comes the SWAT team. They bring the SWAT trailer for the command center. And I'm like, man, this is like watching a TV movie. So, and I'm talking to the police. I'm like, look, man, this ain't that serious, that we need all of this. So I go back in the house, and I told my partner, I said, man, you wouldn't believe it, all this stuff going on outside. So he comes outside, and we're talking to the police, and he's like, this situation now, because we're involved, that we have to do something. And we either have to take him to the hospital to get checked out. So my partner, Tony, said, hey, if I drive him to the hospital, can we be done with all this? And they were like, no, we got to take him. So now, this is like 8:00 in the morning. So my partner, Tony, goes back in the house with Zoe. They're in there talking. I'm sitting in the car, and the police are talking to Zoe's publicist, and they're telling her what they want to do. Hey, if we have to enter the home, we may use tear gas. It could do damage to the carpet and all of that. And she's like, absolutely not. You're not destroying my house. Mind you, she's the one that called the police. So eventually, there's this back and forth that goes on. Now, the home phone is ringing with news media calling, wanting to know what's going on.
Oh, man.
Photographers hiding in bushes of the neighbor's house trying to get pictures. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. So this is back and forth. This goes on all day long. So now members of the Bears show up, front office people, equipment manager, they show up. But what happened, what led up to this, Dave Wannstedt was coaching the team back then. Zoe had a meeting with Wannstedt up at their headquarters. It was a bad meeting because it got loud.
And he left.
He got up and walked out and was actually
disappeared for 2 days, and all this because of that.
Right. And so the police were going to let the Bears go into the house to talk to Zoe. And his wife said, that's a bad idea. They're the ones that pretty much set him off. So I got out and I told the police, I said, there's no way that they can go in there and talk to him because they're the ones who, exactly. So they stopped the Bears from going in. They said, come on back. You can't go in. So here we are. We're sitting there and we're back and forth. So I go back in the house. Now, by this time, they're out in the kitchen and living room area where when you walk in through the garage door, through the kitchen, I mean, they see you right there.
Right.
So walk in there. And again, he still think I call the police. I'm like, dude, we way past that. So let's get to the moment right now. I said, they want to come in here. So by this time, they got a group of officers and they position themselves in the garage. Now they know how big this guy is. So they didn't want to come in with weapons in case he overpowered one of them and got a weapon. So they were coming in unarmed with like just pepper spray. And it's back before tasers. So I'm like, man, this is crazy. So first, the hostage negotiator shows up and wants to go in and talk to him. So I go in the house with him, and he's sitting down and he's talking at Zoe, and he don't know who Zoe is. So Zoe says, "I'm not Zoe. That's Zoe," pointing at my buddy Tony. And Tony looked like a football player. And so the hostage negotiator started talking to my partner Tony, and my partner Tony said, "Look, man, that's Zoe right there." I mean, it was comical.
So Dave, it was this known in the story you're telling? First of all, was this known in the press? Was this story out?
Every media
Covered
everybody,
it?
Everybody covered
the next
this.
thing is, have you ever thought about that? Just almost sounds like a documentary, The Day in the Life of Zoe.
Oh my good man! You know what? I'm gonna just cut to the chase as to how it ended.
I'd beginning to think it didn't end.
Here about 3:00 in the afternoon, here comes Mike Singletary.
Oh no!
Singletary comes, and they let him go in the house. By this time, my partner Tony had come out the house, so Singletary goes in there, and Zoe is just sleeping when he gets in the house. And so he just sits there. Zoe wakes up. They start talking. And then Singletary comes out, and we're all standing in this cul-de-sac with the police. And Singletary says, "Look, if I drive him to the hospital, can we be done with all this?" And you know what the police said? Sure. Yes. And we like, hey, wait a minute.
Hey, we asked that 12 hours ago.
Yeah, at 8:00 this morning, we offered that, and y'all said no. But okay, that's fine. So they agreed to let Singletary drive him to the hospital. So what we did was, hey, we need a diversion, because now they've blocked the streets off, and you got press, all kind of news trucks. I said, we need a diversion. Back an ambulance up in this driveway, make them think that they put him in the back of the ambulance, and send the ambulance on one way, and we go the other way.
Right. Smart thinking.
Do you know it worked?
It did work.
Oh yeah, man. They took the stretcher out and everything,
and
came back in, and then they took off and headed out with a police escort, and they went to the left, and we gave them about a 2 or 3 minute head start.
And y'all went the other direction.
Zoe got in his Mercedes with Mike Singletary. We got in the Range Rover and followed the police to the hospital, the opposite direction.
That's funny.
And got to the hospital, and they admitted him that night, kept him overnight. So we went back home that evening. Next morning, we get a phone call. He busted out of the hospital.
Oh, no.
They put him in a psychiatric ward.
Oh, no.
He busted a metal door in the psychiatric ward, and he's out in the parking lot. He ended up getting in a car of an employee who was leaving work. Scared that person to death.
Yeah.
But they ended up talking him back into the hospital. So me and my partner, we get dressed, we beeline it up there. We pull up into the hospital, and the front of the hospital is lined with news reporters. So here we come. We're walking up to the front door, and all you can hear whispering, "Here come the bodyguards. Here come the bodyguards." And they're throwing questions at us, and we're not answering.
Yeah, you're not going to answer.
Yeah. So we go inside and get with the wife and Zoe's family, and he ended up getting transferred to another hospital in Chicago, and they had him in there for a couple of days, and he didn't like it. he had his ex-agent, who's a lawyer, send them a letter to get him out of released, and he was released, but he was diagnosed as being bipolar.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
Yeah, it was, man, you
some weird about things. Yeah,
man, you're talking about one of the craziest day and a half, 2 days of my life. It was just nuts.
Yeah,
with everything that went on.
Because you being security for that, for some of the stadium, right, and then being asked by the players to be a bodyguard in certain situations. You probably just thought that was going to be drive up, pick up, come back, get that done, and be over with it, right?
Yes.
Nope.
Oh, yeah.
Nope.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I was working full time at the
Right.
time. And so that Monday morning when we got back to his publisher's house, I called in to work and told him I wasn't coming in. Well, as it turns out, because it snowed so bad, it was a snow day at work anyway for that Monday.
So you got
But then,
lucky.
yeah, but then Tuesday morning when I ended up having to go to the hospital, you know, that
Right.
didn't turn out so well for me when my face is plastered all over the
No,
news.
the news, right?
And
Yeah.
there's video footage of me walking in the hospital when I should have been at work. And so when I eventually got back to work, I had a little sit down talk with the boss, and
I
I'm
bet.
glad she didn't let me go.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. Well, hey, this is the Smooth Dave who is on the other end of this podcast knows just about all these players inside and out. He used to be around, and man, when you tell that story you just told lasted like 35 minutes, but that's a great
Wow.
story, a personal story about what it was in the day in the life of Smooth Dave working with some of these football players, right? So there you go.
Oh yeah,
Very
absolutely.
unique. That's
Absolutely.
awesome. Eyewitness. But the thing I hear is I'm thinking of this. I'm thinking of. I'm picturing. If you don't mind, real quick before we get off, I'm picturing this tidal wave of different things piling up at the house.
Mm.
You got the SWAT team, you got the police department, you got the ambulances, you got the hostage negotiator, you got the bodyguards, you got the wives, you got the football players, the Bears staff. I'm just laughing. Sorry.
Yeah.
Funny. All
Yep.
for one player. All right, buddy.
Yes.
Well, we've
Yes.
been on an hour. So
Yes,
we did
sir.
pretty well by ourselves tonight. We'll check
Oh
on
yeah.
Todd and Donovan, guys, and Smooth up. I'm pretty sure once we get back in the sports, we'll be able to get some of our guests back on here. We'll sit down and get a list together of some people we
Oh
want to
yeah.
invite, and me and you talk about that and go from there.
Yes,
So,
sir.
all right, guys,
Yes,
been
sir.
listening to the Internet Sports Broadcast Network with Smooth Dave and Hurdie Berg tonight. Todd was under the weather last week. I think he's hiatus tonight, and Donovan lost his voice, so he couldn't talk if he wanted to. So we will see you guys next week on the Internet Sports Broadcast Network. Good night, Smooth Dave.
Smooth Dave out.
All right, goodbye.